feels like we're drowning in information these days, doesn't it? It's just so hard to know what really counts. That's why we do the deep dive. We try to cut through all that noise, get right to the heart of the matter, and really explain why it's important for you. And today, we're digging into some pretty significant judicial actions happening right now in India. We're focusing on the Supreme Court's recent push to enforce the POSH Act, that's the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act from 2013. Our goal here is to unpack the key court orders, the deadlines, the penalties, all coming out of this ongoing case, Aureliano Fernandez v. State of Goa. What's really interesting is how hands-on the court is being. We want to explore why this level of judicial intervention is actually so critical. So maybe you could start us off. What was that initial directive from the Supreme Court that really got the ball rolling on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It really kicked off back on December 3rd, 2024. The Supreme Court issued this very clear mandate. They gave specific instructions. All states and union territories, they needed to appoint district officers. And the deadline was tight, December 31st, 2024. And then there was another deadline right after that, January 31st, 2025. That was for setting up both local complaints committees, LCCs, and the internal complaints committees, the ICCs. Then they had to follow up pretty quickly with affidavits, basically proving they'd complied in early February.
Wow, okay, that sounds incredibly fast-paced. So how soon did the court actually follow up to see if these things were happening? Were there consequences?
Well, that's what's really telling here. Yeah. The court didn't wait long at all. It showed it wasn't just, setting deadlines for the sake of it. On February 11th, 2025, so just weeks later, really still in that same Aureliano Fernandez case, the court acted. And it wasn't just a warning. They actually imposed a specific Euro 5,000 fine on 5 states. That was Manipur, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, and Telangana, and also Puducherry UT. This was a real penalty for missing those initial deadlines. It sent a very clear signal that they meant business.
Right, a tangible consequence, not just a reminder. And did the pressure keep up after that? What happened moving into May and June this year?
Oh, absolutely. The court definitely kept the pressure on. Fast forward to May 14th, 2025. The court directed the amicus curiae, that's basically a neutral friend of the court, who advises them to gather all the compliance affidavits from every state in UT. And importantly, they also mandated that all the details of the appointed district officers had to be uploaded onto the NLSA website, the National Legal Services Authority. That step was crucial for transparency, right? Making it public who was actually complying and who the responsible officers were.
That makes sense. A big push for accountability. So bringing us up to speed now, maybe around June 1st, 2025, what did that compliance picture look like across the country?
Yeah, looking at the situation as of June 1st gives us a pretty good snapshot. The update showed that, well, most regions did manage to submit their affidavits, and they formed their local committees, the LCCs. So, definite progress. However, some specific areas were still lagging behind. Delhi was mentioned, parts of Haryana too, Jharkhand again, and Kerala. These places were noted as still needing to get those mandated steps completed. So it highlights that even with the pressure, there's still some ongoing challenges in certain regions.
Okay, so progress, but still some gaps. It sounds like the court's work isn't finished here. What's the next step we know about?
Exactly. They're clearly not letting this go. The next key date is already set. The hearing in the case has been adjourned, but it's scheduled for August 12th, 2025. This definitely signals the court plans to keep monitoring this, keep pushing for full compliance, continued vigilance.
So let's tie this all together then. This whole sequence, the deadlines, the fines, the tracking, why is this sustained effort from the Supreme Court actually important for everyone listening?
That's really the crucial question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's so significant here is that it shows the judiciary moving beyond just, interpreting the law. They're focusing intensely on implementation, making sure these workplace safety laws like the POSH Act don't just exist on paper, but actually work in practice. This isn't just about this one act either. It feels like a shift. The Supreme Court is getting involved in active enforcement oversight, really drilling down into the details. This kind of consistent step-by-step follow-up could really set a new standard for how laws, especially those concerning fundamental rights, are put into action on the ground. It's about driving accountability, making sure legal rights translate into real protection for people.
Right. So if we boil it down, the key takeaway seems to be this consistent, methodical approach by the Supreme Court, setting deadlines, imposing actual penalties, demanding proof, tracking progress. It paints a picture of a really determined drive to make POSH Act compliance a reality across India.
Exactly. And maybe that leaves us with something to think about. What could this kind of determined, almost granular judicial oversight mean for enforcing other important laws, like other social or labor laws in India? And maybe how might this approach start to shape accountability more broadly, even beyond just court-mandated compliance? Definitely something worth reflecting on.